Decimal division. All right, here we go. So let's say we have the following. Let's say we have 3.2 divided by 5.5. And we want to do it by hand. Well, we're going to set it up like this. This is 3.2 divided by 5.5, which is 5.5 divided into 3.2. Now, our first step is that anytime that our divisor, which is the number on the outside, the number we're dividing by, anytime our divisor has a decimal, we want to get rid of that decimal. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to multiply this fraction by a common factor. In this case, it's 10. But conceptually, what you can think about is we're basically moving the decimal place over one space in this case to make it a whole number. So since we moved it once on the outside, we also have to move it twice in the inside, or for the dividend. All right, so this 5.5 becomes a 55, and this 3.2 becomes a 32. So now our decimal is going to go here. So we can say 55 into 32 is going to go 0 times. Right? We know we've got our decimal here. And so now we're going to annex a 0. So this comes 300, and we're going to treat it like it's 320. So we say, how many times is 55 going to 320? Oh my goodness, how do we do that? Well, the easiest way to do this is to estimate and use estimation as your friend. All right, so 55, round it back to 50. It's easy to count by 50. So how many times would 50 go into 320? Well, that would be 6, right? Because 50 times 6 would give us 300. So let's try 55 times 6. So 55 times 6, that's 50 times 6 plus 5 times 6. So 50 times 6 is 300, 5 times 6 is 30. So 55 times 6 is 330. So that's too big, but just too big. So we know here it's going to be 5, right? Because 55 times 6 is 330. So we know that 55 times 5 is going to be our answer. So 55 times 5, that's 50 times 5 plus 5 times 5. 50 times 5 is 250. 5 times 5 is 25. 250 plus 25 is 275. So we got 275 here. We subtract. Here again, I don't have to, I can subtract this, by subtracting and borrowing 1 and carrying this, and I can do that. But just think about it for a second. 275, it's 25 away from 300. So 275 plus 25 gives you 300. 300 plus 20 gives you 320. So we know the answer here, the difference between 320 and 275 is just 45, right? So sometimes you can just look at the numbers and you don't have to go into subtraction mode every single time. Okay, so 320 minus 275 is 45. Too small, so we need to annex a 0. So let's extend our bar. We're going to annex a 0, we get 450. All right, 450, again, think about it as if it were 50. I know that 50 times 9 would give me 450. So let's try 55 times 9. So 50 times 9 is 450. 5 times 9 is 45. So that's too big, right? So let's try the next one down. So instead of 9, let's try 8. We know that's going to be the right answer. So 55 times 8, that's 50 times 8 plus 5 times 8. 50 times 8 is 400. 5 times 8 is 40. So 55 times 8 is 440. And we subtract. So here the difference is 10. We're going to annex another 0, bring it down. 55 into 100, well, that's going to be once. And so that's going to be 55. 100 minus 55, that is 45. We're going to annex a 0, but then wait a minute. I see a pattern. Do you see it? I see it. So here we had the same thing. So we know that this is going to be an 8. And if we do 8, that's going to be 440. And then when we subtract that, we're going to get 10. We're going to annex a 0. Aha, looks like we have a repeating decimal. So the answer here is going to be, to 3.2 divided by 5.5 is going to be 0.581 repeating. And so remember, the bar only goes over the ones that are repeating. So in this case, the 8 and the 1 will continue to repeat. So if I did 100 here, that would be 55. We subtract, I would get 4, 5. I would annex 4, 5. I would annex a 0, bring it down, and then I would end up with 8 again. So we see here that we're going to keep getting 8, 1, 8, 1, 8, 1, 8, 1. Right? So this is it, 0.581 repeating, 81 repeating. Let's look at another example. Let's say we have 9.176 divided by 6.2. So this is 6.2 divided into 9.176. So we see we have a divisor that is a decimal. We don't want that. So we're going to move our decimal point over 1. And we're going to also move the decimal point of our dividend over 1. So it's here. And we're going to bring it up. All right. And now let's just do some math. So 62 into 91, that's going to be 1 time. So that's going to be 62. And we can subtract here. Again, we can use a little bit of mental math. If this was 62 into 92, you would know that that's 30 away. But it's 1 less than 92, so we do 1 less than 30, which is 29. Right? We can use mental math. So that's 29. Too small, so we're going to add it. We're going to bring down that 7. So now 62 into 297. Don't panic. Just round and think about it. So if we're counting, if this is 62, it's about 60. It's close to 60. We can round this to 60. And then we can figure out how many times 60 would go into 297 by counting by sixes. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So 5 times would be 300. 60 times 5 would be 300. But since that's too large, maybe we should try 4. So let's try 62 times 4. So 62 times 4, 60 times 4 plus 2 times 4. 60 times 4 is 240. 2 times 4 is 8. So that's going to be 248. We subtract, right? 297 minus 248 is going to be, again, we can do the same thing. So ignore the 200s. So if this was 98, we know that the difference between 48 and 98 is 50. But it's 1 less than 98. It's 97. So that 50 is going to be 1 less than 50. So that's going to be 49. Mental math. Use it. All right. So we got 49. We're going to bring down that 6. All right. Now we're looking how many times does 62 go into 496? Again, we can round the 62 to 60 to get an idea of where we should start our multiplication. So we count by sixes. If I just know if I do 6 times 8, that gives me 48. So 60 times 8 is 480. So perhaps we want to try, that seems pretty close. So perhaps we want to try 8. So if we do 62 times 8, that's 60 times 8, that's 480, plus 2 times 8, which is 16. So 480 plus 16, 480 plus 10 plus 6, that's 496. Aha, look at that. Look at how nice those numbers turned out for us. Almost like the teacher did that on purpose. And we get 0 here, so we know we're done. So 9.176 divided by 6.2 is equivalent to 1.48. Decimal division, that's how you do it.